Henry is a big green engine, much like Gordon. He may often seem grumpy, but he has a soft spot for nature, particularly a forest he likes to sometimes pass through. The other engines like to call it Henry's Forest, as he always seems so at peace there. He's not quite sure why, but his driver understands. In the winter, when the leaves are gone from the trees, it always makes Henry feel a bit sad, but he's always glad to know, come next spring, they'll return. One night in the cold weather, a storm started brewing. The harsh wind left the quarry unsafe to stay in that night, so Fergus, Bill, and Ben were braving their way through the snow to find a spot to rest. The snow came down harder the longer they were out until they puffed by a town, and to their surprise, it was completely dark. A guard waved the three little engines down. "We've got no power!" shouted the panicked guard. Fergus's driver stepped out of his cab. "We can use Fergus's flywheel, but I'm not sure how long it'll last," the driver offered, although a bit concerned. "Bill and Ben can get more help," Fergus's driver added. Bill and Ben set off at once to find help and arrived at Tidmouth Sheds. All the engines were asleep except for Henry.
"Henry! Henry!" the twins panted. "There's trouble at Kronk! We need help!"
"What are you two on about?"
"They've lost power in the snow! They'll all freeze if we don't help them!"
Henry knew the boys were serious, and Bill's driver and fireman helped to get Henry's snowplow fitted. When they arrived at Kronk, Donald and Douglas were clearing snow from the line. "Thank goodness you're here, Henry," Fergus sighed in relief. "I can't power this whole village myself." The guard looked at Henry. "Henry, can you get us firewood?" the guard asked. Donald and Douglas looked at Henry and grimaced. Henry knew what he had to do, and he didn't like it. "Come on, Doogie, Big Green." Donald peeped as he set off back into the snow with plenty of flatbeds. Douglas followed suit with even more. The realization hit Henry only then. This was happening. Henry reluctantly followed. When they arrived at Henry's forest, Henry gazed upon all the trees. The workmen stepped out and prepared their tools as Henry shut his eyes.
"I can't watch!"
He whistled loudly. Donald felt terrible. "Oi, Big Green!" Donald called out. "If you love something, you gotta let it go." Donald tried to console. Henry sniffed. "Aye, all these trees will make nice firewood to keep everyone warm for Christmas," Douglas added. "And you letting them do this makes you a very strong engine," he continued. "And really useful too," Donald finished. This made Henry feel better. After all the flatbeds were loaded with logs, Henry pulled from the front and the twins pushed from the back. Henry thought about what Donald and Douglas had said. He felt much better knowing this was to help people in need. And when they returned to Kronk, all the villagers were very thankful to Henry. Terrence the tractor took the logs to the houses, and everyone was very pleased as their fires lit and they huddled up near their fires. By the time Henry returned to the sheds, the sun was already beginning to rise. Henry was so exhausted that he shut his eyes and fell asleep immediately. When he woke up later that day, he saw Fergus on the turntable. He smiled at Henry as Henry finally came to his senses.
What is going on?
Henry thought as he looked at many of the townsfolk from Kronk. A man approached Henry with a framed photo and passed it to his driver. Henry's driver examined the photo. It was a photo of Henry. Under the photo was an engraved, "Henry the Christmas Hero." He showed it to Henry and Henry smiled. He thought that, even though he lost some of his forest, this made his sacrifice all worth it. Don't you?